Okay, welcome back to the Taco Show, everyone. So today we're going to look at stock analysis. Before we start, I just want to let you know I'm going to do something different with this video with how we're structuring it. But also I am sick as shit, so that's why my voice is different. So to start with, we'll get right into it. First thing I consider when doing analysis is what is your strategy. If my strategy is different to yours, then what I look for in a stock and what you look for is going to be completely different. For example, I do not value dividend stocks because I'm not using stocks for income. Whereas if you are valuing dividend stocks, then just like this guy, you sort of have to think about it, and you can't really just throw stocks at a dartboard and then hope you just come across good dividend stocks, because there's bad dividend stocks and there's good dividend stocks. So if people are interested in that, I'll make a video on that eventually at some point as well. But with dividend stocks, you'd have to do a bit more research because typically dividend stocks are more stable, but if they cut the dividend like the banks did out of nowhere and you don't expect it, then it can clearly affect your income. So keeping up with macro conditions is quite important. The next one is risk tolerance. Now, understanding how much risk you're willing to take is a major factor. I don't like to take much risk, which is why I invest in what the majority of you would probably call boomer stocks, which is typically stocks within the top 200. But if you've got a high risk tolerance, yeah, probably a different strategy to me then. And then the last one is time you want to hold and invest for. I typically hold for 1 to 3 months. I don't like to hold anything later than that because then you've got a lot of conditions. And if you hold later than that, typically I think the longer you hold, the more research you should do. So if you're going to hold for, let's say, longer than like 1 to 3 years, then you should probably do at least 5 years of research. So the second thing that we'll look at is management. Now, management's quite important, and especially their holdings in the company. Now, I'm not talking making sure they have a large proportion. I'm talking whether management are buying or selling. So, if the CEO is holding, then it's clearly a good thing. But if the CEO is not holding and is selling every 2 seconds after he gets his performance bonus, then it's quite poor. The other thing you have to look at is what is the outlook. Does the company have a good outlook consistently and outperform? Do they have a poor outlook and constantly do poor? You have different options. Previous experiences matters a lot. Appens management, for example, if they went over to Macquarie, I wouldn't touch Macquarie with a 10-foot pole because I hate Appens management. So this is where knowing your management and knowing where they come from makes a bit of a difference. Now, obviously, when they do their annual reports and they tell you about management, they're never going to say, oh, well, this person's come here and this company just did poor. They always make it sound good, which I explained recently. But as you can saw, just in that little comic there was a bit of a joke there as well with Macquarie about supporting dodgy IPOs. But the last one's time in the company. You want management to go through the ups and downs so you can see how they rebound with it. If management just go through with the ups, then anyone can look good. So it creates a bit of a biased picture. The last one halfway through. The third one is technical analysis. Now, I know some of you look at technical analysis and like, oh wait, I can just look at my star sign and work out whether the stock's going up or down, Taco. Technical analysis is just witchcraft. Alright, if you think that, you can skip this part. I value technical analysis a little bit. But yeah, if you don't value it, take this with a grain of salt, the same with everything else. But yeah, so at least with technical analysis, I think the minimum you should do is understand support and resistance lines. Support lines are typically where people will buy. And why do support lines hold up? Well, support lines hold up because people buy in, the stock will fall, for example, or go up. And then when it comes back down, people will buy up more because that's where they've bought in out initially. Whereas if you look at resistance lines, that's where people typically will sell out. Either because that used to be an old support and people have finally broke even again, or because people are starting to take profits as they realize that's where it's harder to get past. Technical analysis only works because of crowd psychology, but once again, stock market's not exactly a logical thing anyway, so it's probably not the worst thing you've heard before. The next thing you want to look at is any competition. Now, thinking of this one, I was trying to think of examples, and the best one I thought of by a mile was Coles and Woolworths. 5 years ago, they were essentially a duopoly, with IGA being a little player in the game. If you think of Woolworths and Coles, no one even competed with them, really. I mean, they had, I think it was over 80% of the market share like 5 years ago in Australia. It was insane. You look at now, though, if you pretend we just crossed a bridge from 5 years ago to now, you can think of all these different supermarkets. For example, you have Aldi who's broken in and they're doing the low end, the budget sort of supermarket. You've got Costco who's breaking in with the wholesale. You got the other ones. Who's the other one? I think it's Spud Shed's another one that's breaking through. You've got all these all of a sudden different supermarkets. So would I invest in Woolworths and Coles at the moment? Absolutely not. Does that mean they're going to go down over the next 5 years? No. It just means I don't like the amount of competition that's coming in, especially in Australia, so I wouldn't touch them. The next one, can you explain your company within 2 minutes? The amount of people on Reddit especially that cannot explain their company. Wait, what does my stock do? It's just unbelievable. So, for example, this is probably the easiest way I thought of doing it. So let's say you have an industrial company. I mean, you're like, oh, that's pretty straightforward. I can explain that. Well, then how does that relate to a shipping company? And then, if your company, for example, does 5 million things, can you really justify all 5 million things quite quickly? And if your company is some fancy tech company that produced the latest chip or some nonsense, I don't really understand tech that well, so that's probably not a good example for me. But can you explain it all? And for example, in this example, this guy's trying to explain to his friend what the company is. And so in this example, I just thought I'd use all three. So we used a bank, a shipping company, and an industrial company. Now you look at it like that, breaking down really simply, and you'd be like, oh, what a stupid idea. Why would anyone invest in this stock? But the problem is that the majority of people don't even look at their companies and understand them properly. So hopefully that explains it and creates a bit of a easier idea of what you need to learn or especially understand within your company. If you can't explain it within 2 minutes, don't buy it. The next one's margin of safety. Whether you're right or wrong, you need to have some sort of room for the stock to go down. Just because the stock goes up doesn't make you a genius. Just like if the stock goes down, it doesn't make you a retard. So here I thought I'd use a bull for when the stock goes up. You'll like the bear when the stock goes down, but we'll get to that in a second. So there's 3 scenarios. This one's obviously when the stock goes up. Just because it goes up, as I mentioned, don't think you're a genius. Not every pick you pick will go up, and not every pick you pick will go down. I mean, if you can pick every stock that goes down or every stock that goes up, then mate, props to you. That's impressive. But over the long run, I don't think you can. Maybe in the past year you have because we had a major bull market, but I doubt that. The other thing you need to remember is just because someone tells you to hold, like at the moment with AMC, doesn't mean you should hold. But this poor guy, he's only 20, and look at him. He's bald and he's got wrinkles because he's been holding and not selling when he should be. So now he's confused if his stock's just sitting still. What should he do? Is it sleeping? Well, no. So come up with your own strategy in terms of margin of safety and how much room you're willing to give the stock to go down or up. And the last one we're going to look at is when the stock goes down. Now, unless you're a gay bear, this is not a good strategy. This is never good for you. I rarely ever bet on stocks going down. If I do, I always use puts. But it's up to you. So here I just did a thought bubble of what every gay bear's ever thinking, and gay bears always win. So yeah, that's margin of safety. Hopefully that explains it. So hopefully you like this sort of animation where I've gone on like a journey. We've gone from something simple and we've gone to the more complicated stuff at the end. So well done. You've graduated. You now understand how to analyze stocks. And yes, I'm still sick. So please drop a like and subscribe if you've made it this far, because a sick taco is better than no taco.